Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to yet another video of It's Motor Mindset. And today I bring you another beginner bike review. And today about the Aprilia Falco SL1000. And first of all, you might think a leader bike is not a beginner bike, and you're completely right. But people start on this kind of machines, and that's why I make this kind of content. This particular bike is for sale, so I will share the link to Marketplace in the description. If I make a beginner bike review, I always make a very long and dedicated list of things you should think about while choosing a beginner bike. And everyone is different, so everyone has a different opinion. But I have 4 categories with all subcategories and numbers, and that gets a score. It's not holy, it's just how I rate beginner bike friendliness. The first category is riding. How is it to ride a bike like this as a beginner rider? And the category riding has a lot of subcategories. So you see the footage where I really am riding this bike for the first time. So I'm looking around, checking everything, testing the brakes, give the rider behind me a thumbs up. So that's why you see me do that. So the first subcategory of riding is engine power. And you might know what I think about the engine power for a beginner rider. This bike has 180 brake horsepower, and also it's a V-twin, and it provides immense power, which can be overwhelming for new riders still learning the throttle control and the balance. It even scared me a bit, and I'm riding a VFR, which is not a slow bike as well, so engine power is just way too much for a beginner rider, and therefore first subcategory it scores a 1. In this video description I'll put the list with all numbers and everything, all my notes about every subcategory and its score, so you can read it whenever you want. Next up we have engine power delivery. And the Falco V-twin engine can feel jerky at lower RPMs. I didn't know at this time it's recording, but I've written it a few times and for longer periods of time. It can get a little jerky at low RPMs, and the throttle response can really get you on your seat, or at least off your seat. Because it's a V-twin, you know, there's not much room for mistakes. And therefore the engine power delivery it scores a 3. At 190 kg dry, the Falco is quite heavy for beginners, making slow maneuvers and low speed handling a challenge, and it might take a while before you get confident on the bike, and therefore in the weight category it scores a 4. Next up we have stability. While stable at very high speeds, the bike can feel twitchy and harder to control at lower speeds, which can be upsetting for less experienced riders. I think this bike is just built for high speeds and circuits and stuff like that, not for normal roads, and therefore it scores a 5. Next up we have aerodynamics. The Falco's aerodynamic design includes a full fairing, offers good wind protection and reduced rider fatigue for longer rides, and therefore it's actually really good if you want to ride it like this. So for aerodynamics it scores an 8. Next up we have seat height. The seat height is 850 millimeters. Shorter riders may struggle to reach the ground, and making stopping and maneuvering in tight spots more difficult. The thing is, the lower the bike, the easier it is to control in lower speeds, and therefore the chances of letting it fall on the ground very not ideal, and therefore it scores a 3. And then there is fun. This bike can be amazingly fun, but is also very scary to ride. I have to be honest. When I've driven this bike for I think an hour, at this day I've driven it an hour or so, And I got back on my bike was slow AF. So it's really powerful, and it can be very intimidating, and it's also aggressive by nature because of the V-twin and the jerky at low RPMs. So I would say fun-wise, for a beginner rider, a 5. There's everything you want for a fast, amazing experience, but as a beginner, I don't think it's that much fun because it will scare the shit out of you. So that were the subcategories of riding, and if you combine those numbers, separated by the number of subcategories, you get an average, and the first average is 4.1. I know it's not great, but to be honest, who thought it would be great for a beginner rider? The next subcategory is very interesting. It's reliability. If you start on a bike, you really want the bike to start and ride and enjoy the bike. You don't want to spend the bike going to a shop or have to do everything yourself. So the first thing really surprised me. Overall reliability is very good, especially for an Italian bike, and I never thought I would say this, but Aprilia did a great job building this bike. I usually really love the Japanese bikes because they're amazing, but this Falco is known for being very solid. And if you stay on top of maintenance, and there are a few little electrical faults, and sometimes the fuel system gives you a problem, but no biggies, you're really good on this bike, and therefore overall reliability it scores a 7. Then we have age, and then you might think, what does age have to do with the bike? Well, it's 2025, the day of recording. This bike is almost 25 years old. This one is from 2001, but the generation is 1999 until 2002. And older things just go bad. So the older the bike is, the more chance something breaks down, no matter the brand, no matter the bike. And that is no exception for this bike. And therefore, if you buy a bike like this, you have to be willing to put money into it, because some parts will break down. So age-wise, it brings it back to a 4. Next up, it's knowledge. If there is no one riding it, no one knows how to fix it, and there's nothing to find online. But this Aprilia has really a dedicated following with a wealth of forums, repair guides and aftermarket modifications, and it's very easy to maintain that way because it's really popular, so that really helps in the knowledge department, and therefore knowledge wise it scores an 8. And next up, it's a little bit part of the knowledge thing. Well, the reason why it scores better is part of the knowledge thing, and that is parts availability. Sometimes you find an older bike and some parts are just not you can't buy some parts anymore. Thankfully, this bike was very popular, just as I mentioned in the previous subcategory, and the most parts are just very easy to find, which is good. Some body parts are harder to find, and some specialized electronics can be very hard to find, and therefore it scores a 6 on parts availability. So reliability wise, this bike scores a 6.25. which is not bad for a very old Italian bike, I have to say. The next category is safety. This might be the most important one for a beginner rider. And the first subcategory of safety is brakes. If you want to go fast, you have to brake as well. And the Falco is equipped with a very advanced and great braking system for its time, and that is a very important part of it for its time. It's very responsive and refined, but a modern day bike is just better, particularly at high stress situations, and almost every tricky situation is a high stress situation. So I would say, compared to a new bike, this bike scores a 7 for its brakes. And then we have ABS, anti-lock brake system. ABS can really save your life, but this bike just don't have it. Older bikes usually don't have stuff like that, so no big surprise there. But this bike just have no ABS, and therefore it scores a 1. And then already the last part of safety, and that is visibility. Visibility goes 2 ways. How good can you see something that is mainly your own mirror, because you don't have a back mirror or windows with cars, of course. And then there is how good can people see you. And I have to say, the mirrors on the bikes are small but very stable. I've seen older bikes where the mirror is just dancing all around, you can't see anything in them. So mirrors are good. Light are it's a twin headlights. It's quite adequate, but compared to modern day LED setups, it's just nothing. So I think it's more a time dependent thing than design dependent thing, but LEDs is just way more visible, let's be honest, and it's therefore visibility wise this bike scores a 4, and that brings the average of safety also a 4. And then the last category, and that is price. If you are a beginner rider, the chances you crash, the chances you drop your bike are higher, of course, and therefore purchase price, which is the first subcategory, can be very important for you. My first bike was 450 euros, for example. And for a liter-sized V-twin, the Falco offers a very good value in terms of power and performance. Though prices will vary depending on the bike condition, you easily find a bike for 2,500 euros, which is very reasonable. For example, the bike I'm riding on now is around 2,000 euros. So price-wise, to purchase this price, it scores a 7. And then there is maintenance. If you are handy, you can do a lot on your own, and then this bike might suit you perfectly because it's relatively easy. But if you have to go to a specialized shop, a lot of newer mechanics might not know how to work on those things, and therefore it can be quite expensive to maintain this bike. So there's a little bit of a twist. If you can do something yourself, it can be very cheap because they're relatively simple, but they're also very old, and therefore newer shops might not know how to help you well, and therefore maintenance cost, I gave this bike a 5. And then we have operation cost. This bike is not fuel efficient. And it's never built to be fuel efficient, but especially compared to new bikes, it's very fuel inefficient. And it's also pretty darn expensive to insure. So operating wise, this bike is not good. So if you buy a bike for only when the weather is like this and you just want to enjoy the sun, no biggies. But if you want to drive more often, operating this bike might be more expensive than you might think, and therefore it scores a 2, which brings the total for price on a 4.67. And if you combine all those numbers and separate it by each other, you get a sort of verdict score. And the verdict of this bike is a 4.7. No surprises here. I think everybody knows you should probably not start on something like this, but if you're that guy who really want to know how it is to start on this bike, this video was for you. You know where to look after. You know the engine power is incredibly high. You know its engine power delivery is very jerky at times, and you know it might be unstable on low speeds, and the age it's getting expensive to repair and stuff like that. No ABS, but if you want to do it, you can, and this review was for you. Thank you for watching. I will insert a video of my amazing dogs, because that will bring me my subscription count to 1 million in 2.5 seconds. Thank you for watching. Cheers!